Where can we find the courage to act in spite of fear? Trying to eliminate that which we react to fearfully is a fool's errand because it locates the source of our fear outside ourselves, rather than within our own hearts. Practicing leadership, enabling others to achieve purpose in the face of uncertainty, requires engaging the heart, the head, and the hands, motivation, strategy, and action. Leadership in organizing is rooted in 3 questions articulated by the 1st century Jerusalem sage, Rabbi Hillel: if I am not for myself, who am I? When I am only for myself, what am I? And if not now, when? Perk Avot, Wisdom of the Fathers. Organizing is a practice of leadership whereby we define leadership as enabling others to achieve shared purpose under conditions of uncertainty. Organized collective action challenging the status quo, a social movement, requires leadership that goes far beyond a stereotypical charismatic public persona with whom it is often identified. Unable to rely on established bureaucratic structures for coordination, evaluation, and action, such action depends on voluntary participation, shared commitments, and ongoing motivation. Movements must mobilize under risky conditions not only because well-resourced oppositions often resist their efforts, but also because the undertaking itself is fraught with uncertainty about how, and whether, it can happen in the first place. Mobilizing others to achieve purpose under conditions of uncertainty, what leaders do, challenges the hands, the head, and the heart. Hope is the belief in the probability of the possible rather than the necessity of the probable. There's a real sweet spot between challenge and hope. Leaders make pathways that keep both firmly in view. Young people have an almost biological destiny to be hopeful. Participating in a social action not only often involves a re-articulation of one's story of self, us, and now, but marks an entry into a world of uncertainty so daunting that access to sources of hope is essential. A story is like a poem. It moves not by how long it is, nor how eloquent or complicated. It moves by offering an experience or moment through which we grasp the feeling or insight the poet communicates. Well-told stories help turn moments of great crises into moments of new beginnings. When we tell our own story, we teach the values that our choices reveal, not as abstract principles, but as our lived experience. We reveal the kind of person we are to the extent that we let others identify with us. Public narrative is a leadership practice of translating values into action. It is based on the fact that values are experienced emotionally. As such, they are sources of ends worthy of action and the capacity for action. Storytelling is how we interact with each other about values, how we share experiences with each other, counsel each other, comfort each other, and inspire each other to action. When we tell a story, we enable the listener to enter its time and place with us, see what we see, hear what we hear, feel what we feel. A story communicates fear, hope, and anxiety, and because we can feel it, we get the moral not just as a concept, but as a teaching of our hearts. That's the power of story. Stories teach us how to act in the right way. They are not simply examples and illustrations. When they are well told, we experience the point, and we feel hope. It is that experience, not the words as such, that can move us to action. Because sometimes that is the point, we have to act. Narrative allows us to communicate the values that motivate the choices that we make. Narrative is not talking about values. Rather, narrative embodies and communicates values. And it is through the shared experience of our values that we can engage with others, motivate one another to act, and find the courage to take risks, explore possibility, and face the challenges we must face. Public narrative is woven from three elements: a story of why I have been called, a story of self, a story of why we have been called, a story of us, and a story of the urgent challenge on which we are called to act, a story of now. This articulation of the relationship of self, other, and action is also at the core of our moral traditions. As Rabbi Hillel, the first-century Jerusalem sage, put it, "If I am not for myself, who will be for me? If I am for myself alone, what am I? If not now, when?" Through public narrative, leaders and participants can move to action by mobilizing sources of motivation, constructing new shared individual and collective identities, and finding the courage to act. Leadership, especially leadership on behalf of social change, often requires telling a new public story, or adapting an old one, a story of self, a story of us, and a story of now. Narrative is not talking about values. Rather, narrative embodies and communicates values. Stories teach. We've all heard the ending, and that is the moral of the story. Have you ever been at a party where someone starts telling a story and they go on, and on, and on? Someone may say, or want to say, "Get to the point." We deploy stories to make a point, and to evoke a response. The moral of a successful story is emotionally experienced understanding, not only conceptual understanding, and a lesson of the heart, not only the head.